We lived in those days under the perpetual shadow of the mushroom cloud. It was 1983, and the air was thick with a specific metallic dread that no generation before us had ever known. The world was split in two titanic systems, ideologies locked in a grapple that seemed destined to end in mutual destruction. We had elected Ronald Reagan, a man who saw the world not in shades of gray compromise, but in the stark clarity of moral truth. He called the Soviet Union what it was, an evil empire. This was not mere rhetoric. It was a defiant clarity that resonated deep within the American psyche. We felt it in our bones. We were the standard bearers of freedom, and across the globe, a darkness was gathering. But that clarity, that strength, came with a cost. Our necessary resolve was mirrored by Soviet paranoia. Every stride we made in defense, every new missile system, every calculated diplomatic move, every word uttered by our president was interpreted by the aging, fearful men in the Kremlin as confirmation of our aggressive intent. They had their own name for it, WWIII, the systematic effort to track our supposed planning for a first strike. They believed we were coming for them. They believed their existence, their system, was at stake. In this climate of absolute fear, a climate we had to endure for the sake of global liberty, the lines of communication were not merely strained, they were brittle. Any mistake, any misstep, any flicker of misinterpreted light could ignite the fuse. The pressure we as a nation and as a collective government bore on our shoulders during those years was unimaginable. Yet we carried it, silently, with unwavering faith in the cause of human freedom. Part 2. The routine of war games. In November 1983, the cycle of readiness demanded that we, through our alliance with NATO, conduct our annual command post exercise, Operation Able Archer 83. Able Archer was not designed to be subtle. It was designed to be rigorous, realistic, and terrifyingly thorough. It was the necessary exercise of our deterrent strategy, the chilling simulation of what would happen if the worst came to pass. We had to practice war to prevent war. We had to simulate escalation to prove our capacity to respond. For days, we watched the gears of this enormous simulated war turn. From November 2nd to November 11th, the exercise escalated step by step. It began with conventional conflict and moved relentlessly toward the final, horrifying phase, the coordinated release of nuclear weapons. We saw our leaders, military commanders, and diplomats transition through phases with coded messages, radio silence, and the adoption of highly classified procedures. This year, however, we made the exercise too good. Able Archer 83 featured several critical elements that pushed it beyond routine and into the realm of the truly realistic. B-52 bomber movements. We flew actual, non-nuclear armed B-52 bombers deep into the simulated theater of operations, executing radio silence drills as if preparing for a strike. High-level participation. For the first time, our most senior political figures, including President Reagan himself and Vice President Bush, were involved in the command posts, demonstrating real-world commitment to the simulated escalation. We introduced a new, complex system of encrypted communication code words, simulating the final shift to wartime footing. To us, it was a necessary drill, a performance of readiness. We understood the difference between simulation and reality. We knew the codes were just codes, the missiles just numbers on a screen. But to the men watching us from the east, through the lenses of their overwhelming paranoia, the realism of Able Archer was not a demonstration of readiness, it was a smokescreen. They saw the movement of the bombers, the presence of the commander-in-chief, and the switch to the final unique codes, and they believed, with a horrifying absolute certainty, that this was not a rehearsal. They believed this was the cover story for the start of World War III. Part 3. The Crucible of Realization. The Soviet response, though initially unseen by the public, was swift, chilling, and deadly serious. We did not know it at the time, but as our exercise escalated, so did their readiness. 4 Soviet Air Force divisions in East Germany and Poland were placed on high alert. The deployment of our B-52s was met by the movement of Soviet aircraft to forward positions. Most terrifyingly, in several Soviet launch sites, the doors to missile silos slid open. Their forces were moving to launch on warning status. We were not at war, but the other side believed we were hours, perhaps minutes, from starting one. The turning point, the moment our leadership, our collective will was truly tested, came not from a missile launch, but from the quiet, painstaking work of a handful of dedicated intelligence analysts. These unsung heroes, working in cramped, low-lit rooms across the country, began piecing together the subtle, almost invisible shifts in Soviet behavior. We noticed the sudden deep shift in Soviet communication patterns, a transition from routine banter to absolute radio silence, a pattern associated only with the highest level of war preparation. We saw the unexpected sharp cessation of regular reconnaissance flights, replaced by jittery, high-altitude surveillance. We analyzed the increased frequency of communications between the Kremlin and senior military commanders in Eastern Europe. The realization hit us like a silent depth charge. Able Archer had not deterred them. It had convinced them we were about to strike. The exercise intended to preserve peace was about to ignite global nuclear war by accident. It was in this moment, deep inside the high-security walls, that the collective heroism of our administration began. President Reagan, a man often characterized by his vision and resolve, was suddenly confronted with a reality far more terrifying than any cold calculation of deterrence. He was informed that we had caused a war scare so profound that Soviet leaders, viewing the world through the distorted lens of their ideology, believed our war games were the real thing.
The personal cost was immense. We, the advisors, the generals, the president, became human lightning rods for the weight of the entire planet. Sleepless nights were not a metaphor. They were a reality defined by cold coffee, buzzing phone lines, and the constant, throbbing awareness that a single wrong move, a single display of panic, could end civilization. We could not scream, we could not mobilize, we could not even show our full hand for fear of confirming their worst suspicions. Our courage had to be silent, internal, and absolute. Part 4. The Silent Symphony of De-escalation. This was the crisis, and this was where our ingenuity shone. We faced a dilemma without precedent. How do you stop a potential first strike that is based on a misunderstanding of your own defensive posture? The conventional rules were useless. Any overt action, canceling the exercise abruptly, making a frantic public announcement, would have been seen by the Soviets as a final confirmation. They canceled the drill because the real attack is minutes away. Our secret action was not a single dramatic move. It was a collective, delicate, surgical withdrawals, orchestrated by the finest minds in our service. It was a collective decision born of unity, sacrifice, and supreme intelligence. 1. The subtle dial-back. The first quiet command issued from the White House was to subtly, incrementally dial back the intensity of Operation Able Archer. We could not stop the exercise, but we could make it less realistic, less frightening. We pulled back the B-52s earlier than planned. We delayed the final, most sensitive coded messages. We ensured that the simulation's internal pace, which had been accelerating, began to visibly lag and meander. To the commanders on the ground, it was a frustrating change of pace. To the analysts in the dark rooms, it was the only way out. 2. The diplomatic whispers. We then activated our most trusted diplomatic channels, not the formal, bombastic public forums, but the quiet, back-channel lines of communication that ran between Washington and Moscow. We did not mention Able Archer. Instead, we used carefully crafted, non-official messages to gently signal our true intent. Our diplomats, acting under supreme pressure, spoke about cooperation on unrelated matters, about upcoming cultural exchanges, about the need for stability, all designed to convey a single, undeniable message. The American mind is focused on peace, not war. 3. The intelligence sacrifice. Perhaps the greatest sacrifice was made by our intelligence community. To confirm the extent of Soviet paranoia, we had to rely on highly sensitive, sometimes single-source intelligence, the exposure of which could have crippled our future ability to gather vital information. But faced with the choice between protecting intelligence assets and protecting the world, the choice was clear. We risked exposing sources and methods to confirm the reality of the Soviet war scare, thus giving our leadership the necessary confirmation to act with precision. This was a silent, unacknowledged act of sacrifice on behalf of every citizen. 4. The President's quiet hand. We watched our President Ronald Reagan demonstrate a unique kind of strength. His great power had been his conviction. Now his great power became his restraint. He personally approved the strategy of non-panic. He kept the secret of the near catastrophe from the general public, enduring the potential criticism of seeming too passive, all to prevent the global hysteria that would surely have triggered a fatal miscalculation in Moscow. He placed the security of humanity above his own political reputation. For days we held our breath. The situation was a razor's edge. We watched the Soviet high alert status, the silent indicators of readiness, persist even as our exercise softened. The anxiety was a physical weight, pressing down on every soul involved. We knew the clock was ticking, and the only path to safety was to reach the exercise's pre-planned conclusion without a single dramatic moment that could be misinterpreted as a final, desperate move. Part 5. The longest night. The tension peaked on the final days of the exercise. We knew that the Soviet command structure was agonizing over the choice. Do they strike preemptively, or do they hold their nerve? The world, unbeknownst to itself, was waiting for the exercise to simply end. During this longest night, we saw the true test of the American character. It was not the bravery of charging a hill, but the sustained, agonizing fortitude required to sit in a room knowing the stakes and choosing patience, precision, and peace. We saw the diplomats, exhausted, continuing their subtle overtures. We saw the military advisors maintaining the delicate balance of the exercise, realistic enough to deter, but now carefully restrained enough not to provoke. We watched the president, standing firm, trusting in the calculated risk of de-escalation he had personally authorized. The shared sacrifice of this moment was the sacrifice of ego, of the desire for easy action, and of the need for public acknowledgement. Our victory had to be anonymous for it to be successful. We bore the cost of fear without the release of action. Finally, Able Archer 83 concluded as planned. Slowly, almost imperceptibly, the Soviet indicators began to ease. The radio traffic returned. The high alert posture softened. The fear, the acute nuclear fear that had gripped the Eastern Bloc's high command, began to recede, not with a bang, but with the quiet, gradual realization that the expected American first strike had never materialized. The world had continued to spin. Families had gone to work, children had played in the parks, and the whole of civilization had unknowingly passed through the narrowest of gaps between survival and annihilation. And we, the people, through the courage and dedication of our elected and appointed servants, had ensured its passage. Conclusion. Dawn of the unseen victory. The true measure of our collective victory is the fact that most people alive today have never heard of Able Archer 83,
or if they have, they do not grasp its terrifying proximity to disaster. It remains for us a profound secret, a testament to the unseen heroism of a free and capable people. We look back on that November of 1983 with solemn pride.
We triumphed through unity. We succeeded because our various branches of government, intelligence, military, diplomatic, and executive, were unified by a single, overriding commitment to peace and preservation. There was no internal squabbling, only focused, high-stakes collaboration. We triumph through sacrifice. We sacrifice the instinct to panic, the desire for self-justification, and the political expediency of revealing the danger. We chose the difficult, silent path of de-escalation. We triumphed through ingenuity. We did not simply blunder our way out of the crisis. We navigated it using brilliant, subtle statecraft, inventing a solution to a problem that had no textbook answer. We proved that American ingenuity is not just mechanical or scientific, but diplomatic and strategic. This moment is the glorious essence of the American character. We are a people capable of great, visible action, but also of supreme, quiet restraint. We stand for freedom, and we are ready to defend it, but our ultimate glory lies in our profound, unyielding commitment to life itself. That day, we did not win a battle. We won the continuation of the human story. We affirmed our glorious destiny not by initiating conflict, but by silently, skillfully ensuring the continuation of peace and the triumph of common sense over catastrophic fear. This is our shared identity, the unwavering guardians of liberty, poised on the edge of the abyss, and choosing, always, to step back into the light. And we will remember it not with monuments, but in the quiet confidence of knowing exactly what we are capable of. We endure. We prevail. We are free. That day, we did not win a battle. We won the continuation of the human story. We affirmed our glorious destiny not by initiating conflict, but by silently, skillfully ensuring the continuation of peace and the triumph of common sense over catastrophic fear. This is our shared identity, the unwavering guardians of liberty, poised on the edge of the abyss, and choosing, always, to step back into the light. And we will remember it not with monuments, but in the quiet confidence of knowing exactly what we are capable of. We endure. We prevail. We are free. This profound moment in our shared history, though often overlooked, represents the pinnacle of our collective wisdom and resilience. It was a day when the very fabric of civilization hung precariously, not on the outcome of a conventional war, but on the delicate balance of misperception and restraint. The battle we won was fought in the war rooms and the minds of leaders, a silent, psychological struggle against the terrifying momentum of escalation. We did not conquer an enemy territory or claim a decisive victory on the field. Instead, we secured something far more precious, the unbroken narrative of humanity, the promise of a future for generations yet to come. Our glorious destiny was not forged in the crucible of aggression, but in the quiet, painstaking work of de-escalation. It was a testament to the power of diplomacy, intelligence, and the courage to question the most dire assumptions. The triumph of common sense over catastrophic fear was not a sudden burst of enlightenment, but the culmination of countless individual decisions to prioritize survival over pride, dialogue over destruction. This collective act of stepping back from the brink, of choosing reason in the face of overwhelming paranoia, defines our shared identity. We are the unwavering guardians of liberty, not because we brandish the biggest weapons or shout the loudest, but because we understand the true cost of unchecked aggression. We stand eternally poised on the edge of the abyss, acutely aware of the fragility of peace, yet consistently choosing to step back into the light of cooperation and mutual understanding. This critical juncture in history will not be commemorated with grand monuments or etched into stone, for its true legacy resides within us. It is etched in the quiet confidence of knowing exactly what we are capable of. We endure. We prevail. We are free.